What current barriers exist in the system that prevents teachers from teaching math to our 21st century diverse learners?
Boy, oh boy. And this is not coming from a math expert, which might have some benefits. You know, sometimes we reach outside of our ecosystem. You can, you get people who see with new eyes. When I think about application, I really think about that. I think about all the processes that I had to learn with paper and pencil that are now available on this thing that and to me, it's embarrassing to call this a phone because it's about the least that it does. And for someone like me who doesn't like the phone is about 5% of what this thing does. So I think about application. I think about that barrier. I also think about, I've been in education for 31 years, and I've been consulting with schools for the past 16. And I've become very passionate about mathematics development, again, becoming like oxygen, like being regarded just as literacy is. But we as educators have to do a better job at the whole gatekeeping thing. I remember early on in my career, I knew teachers, especially at the high school level, who almost took pride in their failure rate because to them, it implied that what they were teaching was complex. So it was almost like a gatekeeping kind of thing, it's like a gatekeeping. Like that's one of the barriers. And for as much as we've done to get rid of teacher isolation, there's still some trails that exist. There's still some trails. We see, I still come across educators who see mathematics education as a privilege as opposed to a right. That we have way too many safety nets and levels. I'm hyper focused on grade level or better. I'm hyper focused on students mastering the mathematics learning targets and standards that will prepare them to be successful at the next grade level, the next course, the high stakes assessment where applicable, and life beyond the K-12 system. Like that to me is the floor. That has to be the floor. And we've got way too many floors beneath that floor, and it doesn't serve us well. So I'm not a mathematics expert. I'm more of a mindset expert. I think that's my passion. And I know as human beings, when we start creating, I tell people all the time, I go to some high schools, got 5 algebras before algebra. Come on now. We got 4 years of high school. Modified foundational, you almost there, but not quite there. Algebra, modified, but you from that neighborhood algebra. You got that hood algebra, got the trailer park algebra, you got the poor white kids algebra. We got all of it. Yeah. And yet, every time I ask an algebra teacher, hey, do you teach algebra 2? And they're like, yeah. Are there targets in algebra 1 that kids absolutely have to master to have any shot in algebra 2? And they're like, absolutely. And I say, is it the entire algebra 1 curriculum? Nope. I said, great. So if we narrow those down to the absolute essentials, right? The absolute essentials that a student needs to go to that next level of mathematics, then that's the floor. There's no IEP version of that. There's no poor white kids, poor brown kids, or poor black kids version of that. There's no trailer park version of that. There's no Section 8 version of that. There's only that. So let's make that the floor, because something happens with human beings when we have a plan A and we don't introduce plan B. We make miracles happen when we have plan A. If plan A is grade level or better, then let's just keep that. But we've got, in our systems, we got just way too many pobrecito, bless his heart, levels of mathematics instruction that make us feel better when we go to bed at night because little Julio and Lupe and Deshaun grew a little bit, but it doesn't get them where they need to go. Doesn't get where they need to. So we end up doing them a disservice. I think we play scared sometimes.
Mm-hmm.